Nice to see you all. Let's pray. I will show you hidden things you have not known. I will show you hidden things you have not known. I will show you hidden things you have not known. Seeds are hidden things. Did you know that the word broadcast comes from a farming term? It means sowing seeds in a field by throwing the seeds out broadly. And that sums up our parable for today. Basically, the farmer went out to plant some seeds, and all manner of results occurred. But of course, for us, broadcast has evolved mostly to mean what we get from media. And maybe we even think of broadcast right now in kind of a negative way because we have problems with the broad spread of misinformation. We are inundated by repeated bad news. For example, this summer, all of the extreme weather, flooding, heat, fires, they are now proclaiming climate change as our new normal. Yes, it's important to be informed. But how do we keep the hope for change when we're assailed constantly with the seeds of bad news? So broadcasting bad news is one thing, but the parable points to something much more life-giving. The metaphor is the parable of seeds that include experiments and failures and problems, but then also a miraculous abundance. So today, as we contemplate the broadcasting of seeds, I invite each of us to think of the role that we have in spreading seeds of love in a world hungry for good news. Some people are excellent examples of those who expect the best in others, patiently sowing seeds of love. It often means a long wait and failure to see signs of budding for a long time, but sometimes there is welcome and surprising abundance. I'm thinking of a friend whose daughter, while in middle school, began to have a drug addiction. This same daughter gave birth to a child when she was 15. So when I knew this mother, now grandmother, her daughter was in her 20s with a 10-year-old son and still wrestling with addictions. My friend tried all the things she could to help. She went to AA meetings, saw numerous counselors, set boundaries, talked to friends, kept praying, and kept on loving her daughter and grandson. And it seemed like there were many chances in the rehab center that seemed promising, but thorny weeds would choke out the progress. Finally, my friend made the hard decision at a certain point in her life of moving into a retirement center. She did this because it was best for her, but it also had the advantage of not being a place where the daughter could move back to. This was a hard decision. But she had reached the point where she realized that really all she could do was love her daughter and pray. I spoke to her, my friend, this week. She likes her new community. And she told me that for the first time in more than 20 years, her daughter seems to be in a lasting recovery. Part of that is she's become a member of a church that feeds her spiritually and holds her accountable and just has a clarity that is keeping her on track. It seems that those seeds of love and healing are taking root. My friend is experiencing this with hope, almost a miracle. What seeds did she spread by her patience? We all have someone or a situation that at times seems hopeless. A family member, a difficult job, a struggling friendship, broken relationship, a wayward child or grandchild. We can look to this parable as encouragement that we can trust God to bring forth new life. And we're not talking about optimism. We are talking about new life, life stronger than separation, stronger than loss, suffering, even death. So you may be asking, how do we discover that love? Or how do we keep that love at the forefront of our lives? And more importantly, how do we, when we experience that love and hope, how do we share that abundance with others? We're going to go into more depth in that in a few minutes, but first I want to say a little bit about parables, because for the next few Sundays, our appointed readings are going to be on parables. So I want to talk a little bit about what it is. A parable, at its simplest, is a metaphor drawn from daily life or nature, and something in its vividness grabs us, or it's strange and grabs us, and often surprises us into a new way of thinking. Parables should work on us with heart-opening surprise. Maybe it's a little like a poem. W.H. Auden wrote this: "Blessed be all metrical rules that forbid automatic responses and force us to have second thoughts, free from the fetters of self." A parable should stop and make us think at least twice. How we read parables has changed over time. A parable is a story that helps us to see how things are and have a vision of how things might be. Parables generally are not allegory, so there's no set rule about who's whom in the story. Now, if you were listening carefully when Pat read, you did hear an allegory in the scripture today because the parable was told twice. The second half was allegory, saying, these are the sowers, here's what they do. Here are the plants that don't grow, and here's why. That's allegory. But right now, I'm just going to focus on the first 8 verses. Because when the Gospels were written down, there were various time periods. The allegory probably came later. These first words, the original parable, most likely were Jesus' words. So one way to approach a parable in a fresh way is to think about the characters in the story and ask, well, where do I fit in this story? Where do we fit? And most often in the parable we heard today, we think of the sower as Jesus. Maybe we think of the sower as God. But what if the parable is you? The sower is you. What if the sower is you? What if it's me? What if we read the parable and the sower is St. Andrew Lutheran in Beaverton? The farmer goes out to plant seeds. She flings the seeds broadly, hoping for a good outcome. Some of the seeds fall on rocky ground, not enough soil. Some get eaten by birds. Some grow among weeds and get choked out. But some fall on good soil and grow magically 30, 60, 100-fold. Yes, says Jesus to those followers, those sowers, that's the way it is. When you follow my way, you broadcast seeds of love and compassion. And even though sometimes in this hostile environment it falls on rocky ground and doesn't grow, sometimes that seed lands in someone's heart at just the right time, in just the right place. We can trust in God's extravagant love. What extravagance of growth and love is already happening at St. Andrew? What seeds are planted that have yet to emerge? We scatter seeds of life and light when we offer kindness, when we give of ourselves, our resources, our attention, our knowledge. We plant seeds when we go out of our way to help others. And you know what? If you look, there are opportunities every single day for every one of us to do that. The parable tells us we must sow, maybe not seeing results, but we love, trust, and we see what happens. For many years, I led a monthly Saturday late afternoon service of healing and wholeness. We sang chants from the community of Taizé, France, and in the candlelit sanctuary with the prayer team, people would come to kneelers and tell us what they needed healing for, and our prayer team, we would put hands on their shoulders and offer prayer. I just thought this was a great service. Surely people who don't necessarily like Sunday sermons or who've never been to church before, they would come and feel the magic of the service. And I had visions of pews filled with young people. Okay, 20 years later, it was about a dozen to 20 people each month, and sometimes 30. But there was the one woman who was estranged from her son, and she came to the kneeler in tears and told us how he cut her off from her grandchildren. And we put our hands on her shoulders and we prayed. She showed up again the next month. We prayed for her again, and the next month. For over 3 years, I don't think she missed a month of that service. And then one evening, she showed up accompanied by her son and his family. That night, they all came forward for prayer. We put our hands on their shoulders and prayed, and the look of joy, of peace, multifold return. The healing service never did draw multitudes, but God grew the love in that situation. We can trust God to do that. And we mustn't lose heart when things don't turn out as we expected, or grow in the time frame that we expect, or emerge in the way that we expect. We must lovingly release our hopes and dreams to God's love and power. Sowing seeds of goodwill and love, this is the daily work that we all are called to do. We all have seeds to sow. I've seen so many ways that you are sowing seeds. Every act of kindness to the person checking the groceries, every encouragement of a child, every caring phone call and visit, every dish washed, every weed pulled, Eric, every English lesson taught, every meal prepared and served with love, each one of those things and more is sowing seeds of love, and we're doing it. The Sanctuary Committee of St. Andrew has been helping 2 families from Afghanistan. I think it's fair to say that it's been educational to see how deep the needs are in adjusting to a brand new culture. These refugees have shared meals with St. Andrew's folk. We've shared some monetary support, some advice on how to manage financially, lessons in English, childcare offered while the mothers are connecting with each other. Every gathering of St. Andrew people with the families is a new opportunity, even experiments at times, in finding the best ways to nurture and support their independence in a new culture. Seeds of new life. So a couple years ago, my mom and dad moved into the house next door. We have a little pebbly courtyard in between our houses, and my mom has put a lot of effort into planting flowers and herbs and other plants in pots. But wasn't it May that things were really cold and rainy and dark? And the courtyard side gets a lot of shade. So sadly, she discovered this summer many of those pots, the plants had rotten roots. No growth. In fact, they died. But on the other side of the house, on the sunny side, there is a beautiful grapevine that's taken off. It's spreading across the wire fence in the full sunlight. Do you remember that musical, Little Shop of Horrors, with Seymour? Feed me. That's the grapevine, nicknamed Seymour. It's well over 7 times its original size. It's shooting out very healthy green tendrils. I can almost taste the tang of the grapes that I know are going to be eventually growing and ripening. And that's the image I'd like to leave us with today. Think about this wild, abundant life growing in our families, in our church, life that won't be stopped. People in our neighborhood, people in our town, many do not have spiritual friendships. They do not have spiritual practices and friends. St. Andrew has a rich heritage of spiritual formation and friendship to share with others, like Seymour spreading. As we invite others to join in the nurture and community here, our invitation will often fall on unready soil. but think about the grapevine flourishing in the heart of one person thirsty. You are the sowers. Trust that God is bringing